Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to peel back the curtain on some pretty powerful stuff, the hidden tactics that are used every single day to influence how you think and what you do. We're talking about the invisible scripts that guide our lives, from the stuff we buy to the people we trust.
You ever get that feeling, that nagging sense that maybe a decision you just made wasn't really your own? Well, you're not wrong to feel that way. From the ads that pop up on your phone to conversations you have with people you know, there are these subtle psychological forces constantly at play. And just understanding them, that's the first step to taking back control. So let's dive in and see where these things pop up the most.
All right, first up, the hidden scripts. We're going to start in a world we all live in, marketing. This is really where these psychological tricks are perfected, hiding right out in the open, usually disguised as some amazing deal you just can't miss.
So why does everything seem to cost $9.99? Seriously, think about it. It's everywhere, and nope, it is absolutely not a coincidence. It's not just some random number they pull out of a hat. This is a very, very specific psychological trick, and it's built to mess with the way our brains see value.
Okay, so let's look at some of these dark marketing tricks. They're all designed to hit us right where it counts, our psychology. You've got the scarcity principle. Only 3 left in stock. That creates a huge fear of missing out. Then there's something called the Zeigarnik effect. That's our brain's weird hatred of leaving things unfinished, and it's the exact reason you can't stop scrolling TikTok. And of course, the illusion of free, or that $9.99 price tag, they're all just playing with how we perceive value, making us think we've scored an amazing bargain.
So yeah, these tricks are definitely powerful for selling stuff, but for the most part, it's pretty impersonal, right? But what happens when these same tactics, these same levers, move out of your shopping cart and into your personal life? When the goal isn't to sell you something, but to actually control you? Well, that's a whole different ballgame. And that's exactly where we're headed now.
So now we're going to talk about rewriting your reality. This is when manipulation gets personal. And honestly, this is where things get serious. We're leaving the world of sales tricks behind and stepping into the territory of psychological abuse. The goal here isn't a sale. It's to completely change how someone sees themselves and the world.
I'm sure you've heard the word gaslighting thrown around a lot. But what does it actually mean? Well, at its core, it's a really nasty form of psychological manipulation where someone makes you question your own reality, your own memories, even your own sanity. It's this slow, systematic process of just chipping away at your confidence in your own mind. And the name? It actually comes from an old play from 1938 where a husband tries to make his wife think she's going crazy by dimming their gas lights and then telling her she's just imagining it.
And what's so scary is that this process often follows a predictable and really heartbreaking pattern. Research has actually broken it down into 3 phases. First, there's just disbelief. The person being manipulated is confused, they don't get what's happening. Then comes the defense phase, where they're desperately trying to prove that what they know is real. But over time, it can lead to the final stage, depression. And this is where the victim starts to give up and actually begins to believe the manipulator's twisted version of reality.
So how do they do it? Well, the tactics are all about creating this constant fog of self-doubt. They'll just lie outright. They'll deny saying things you know they said. They'll tell you you're overreacting or too sensitive when you have a perfectly valid feeling. They'll blame you for their mistakes, and a big one is constantly questioning your memory of events. It's all designed to make you feel isolated, confused, and ultimately completely dependent on them to tell you what's real.
And the long-term damage this causes is intense. Psychologists actually have a really powerful way of describing it, called the knot theory of mind. Think about it like this. Imagine your thoughts, your self-worth, are all a nice, clear, straight line. Gaslighting takes that line and just ties it up into this incredibly complex, tight knot of self-doubt, anxiety, and confusion. And as you can imagine, untangling a knot like that, it can take a very, very long time.
Okay, so this begs a really important question. What's the difference between just persuading someone and actually manipulating them? It all boils down to 2 things, really: intent and transparency. Look, persuasion is usually honest about its goals. It's out in the open, and often everybody benefits. But manipulation? That's a different story. It operates in the dark. It uses deceit, its real motives are always hidden, and the goal is always, always self-serving.
All right, so we've seen the how. Now let's look at the who. What kind of person does this stuff? Psychology has actually pinpointed a specific group of personality traits that often show up in people who are highly manipulative. And this cluster of traits is known as the dark triad. It sounds like something out of a movie, but it's a real psychological concept. First, you have narcissism. That's all about grandiosity, entitlement, and a real lack of empathy. Then there's Machiavellianism, which is basically a cynical, the ends justify the means approach to life, focused on manipulation for self-interest. And finally, psychopathy, which is characterized by things like antisocial behavior and a total lack of remorse. When you get these three together in one person, well, the potential for harm goes way, way up.
But wait, it gets worse. As if that combination wasn't unsettling enough, recent research has found that sometimes there's a fourth ingredient in this toxic stew.
And that fourth trait is sadism, which is simply the tendency to get pleasure from other people's suffering. When you add that to the dark triad, you get what's now being called the dark tetrad. And this is a huge deal, because it's not just about manipulating people to get what you want anymore. It's about enjoying the pain you cause along the way. And unfortunately, this combination has found a perfect playground in the modern world.
Let's talk about that digital playground. Because the internet, right? With all its anonymity and the distance it creates between people, it can be a total breeding ground for these dark traits. It strips away all the normal social rules and consequences that might stop someone from acting on their absolute worst impulses in the real world. I mean, have you ever wondered this? What kind of person actually becomes an internet troll? You're scrolling through the comments, and it's just pure poison, and you think, who are these people? Why would they do this? Well, it turns out science has a pretty clear and pretty chilling answer for us.
So yeah, research shows a direct link. A recent study found a really strong connection between sadism and the motivation to troll people online. To put it simply, while other dark triad traits are definitely in the mix, sadism was one of the biggest predictors of who becomes a troll. The people doing it aren't just angry or manipulative. Many of them are literally getting enjoyment out of causing pain. In fact, the title of one of the first big studies on this was simply, "Trolls Just Want to Have Fun." And that really hits the nail on the head. But the key thing to understand is what they think is fun. For someone high in sadism, fun is causing other people distress. The cruelty isn't just a side effect of their argument. The cruelty is the point. Okay, so that's a lot of heavy stuff. We've got hidden scripts, dark personalities. So what do we do? How do we defend ourselves? Well, the answer isn't to become paranoid. The best defense is to build some mental armor. It's about having a structured, clear mind. Let's talk about a couple of ways to do that. First up, there's a great technique called mind mapping. It's basically a way to organize your thoughts visually. You start with one main idea in the center, and then you branch out with all the related concepts. What this does is it gives you a clear, big picture of a situation or an idea. And when you have that clear map in your own head, it becomes way, way harder for someone else to come in and try to twist the details around or make you confused.
Another really powerful tool is called dual coding. The idea here is simple. Our brains process words and pictures in different ways. So when you're trying to understand something, don't just use words and visuals. Write it down and then draw a little sketch or diagram of it. By doing that, you're building two separate pathways in your brain to the same information. This makes your understanding so much stronger, so much more resilient, and a whole lot harder for anyone to mess with.
And really, that's the key takeaway here. Structured thinking is your absolute best defense. By being proactive, by taking the time to organize how you think and learn, you're not just getting smarter, you're building a powerful mental shield. You're making your own reality solid, fortifying it against anyone who might try to distort it.
So now you can see the strings. The question is, who's pulling them? Just being aware, just being able to recognize these hidden scripts is the most important first step. It puts you in a much stronger position to see these things as they're happening. If you found this explainer helpful, do us a favor and like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need it. Because at the end of the day, the more people who understand these tactics, the less power they'll have over all of us.